Для возрождения России напрасны все политические и программные объединения. России нужно нравственное обновление русского народа. Мы должны молиться о прощении грехов наших и о милости нашему Отечеству, подобно тому, как Господь Бог освободил Израиль от плена Вавилонского, восставил и разрушенный град Иерусалим.
В архивах, пожалуйста.
Да, я вас
Когда
понимаю.
этого храма больше не будет, тогда можно будет эти иконы показать. Вот а все семьи, которые выезжали из России, почти все вывозили свою самую драгоценную икону, самую любимую, самую дорогую для души. И поэтому здесь это все иконы, которые были пожертвованы умирающими старушками. Что это тоже одна из причин, почему мы этот храм не хотим разбирать. Потому что вот тут эти старушки стояли и молились, да, перед своими же иконами. Это очень трудно разбирать. Владыка. Владыка был чудо. Владыка был, вот я тоже записала некоторые формулы, чтобы это так себе. Он был предельно скромен. Он был тихий, ровный и спокойный. Он никогда не выступал, но он был. Как будто его незаметно и сильно чувствуется его присутствие. У него было изумительно редкое качество, великое и редкое качество – это простота. Это мало кто умеет. Мой отец очень ценил это качество. Это самое большое качество и самое трудное. Он как-то моему мужу, швейцарцу, говорил: вы знаете, что самое трудное? Он говорит: не знаю, быть простым. Все люди всегда во что-то играют, что-то налаживают, что-то, а владыка просто был. И с ним люди просто и общались тоже. Не было вот этого какого-то высокомерия вокруг него. Но зато было очень много теплоты и уюта какого-то. С ним было хорошо. Да, еще написала, что его присутствие было не так заметное, как сильное. Он был невидный, но явный. Вот это слова, которыми я пыталась его высказать. У него была какая-то телесная слабость. Он почему-то был изогнутый. Я не знаю почему. Он был изогнутый. Он ходил так, как-то нагнувшись вперед на бок, одно плечо наверх, другое вниз. И как-то так он, и голова немножко к низу. Он был маленького роста. И при этом он был могучий. Вы знаете, плакать хочется, когда его вспоминают так именно. Вот это такой парадокс. Это такая сила в такой немощи. Я такого в жизни никогда не видела. Все всегда, вы знаете, берут своей какой-то молодцеватостью, своей красотой, громким голосом. У него ничего этого не было. Он излучал какую-то невероятную силу. Когда он приезжал сюда как епархиальный епископ, он всегда у нас служил. И поскольку, я говорю, мы тут служили чаще, то он и тут служил. И ВВ тоже, вот куда вы завтра поедете, в храм, он там то. Это храм великомученицы Варвары завтра, я буду, может, так называть, а то ВВ это тоже действительно какой-то барбаризм. Значит, мы пели с моей подружкой, еще кто-то, так было, значит, пели старушки, да и вот мы, значит, там двое, Дарья и я, мы были помоложе. И он вышел, и он что-то сказал, какой-то возглас. И мы с ней переглянулись и не могли услышать. Он сказал: «Тя-тя». И Дарья говорит: и всякие вся, и что он сказал, да? И мы стали хихикать, да? Ну, спели. Но я хочу сказать, что при нем все как-то было просто и по-человечески. Это не было грешно посмеяться, потому что он был немножко косноязычный. Это тоже входило в некую такую уют его вот личности, какой-то такой своеобразный. И мой отец это очень ценил. Мой отец его нежно любил именно за его какую-то такую... Ему всегда хотелось его как ребенка, так сказать, за пазуху засунуть и защитить от жизни. Хотя не нужно было, потому что он таки не был не беззащитный. С ним люди считались, люди в нем чувствовали силу.
And then we had Krishna Chod when we blessed this with him, and you will see him. Here is Vladika with the relax on his head, and you will see more.
But you remember him, right? You remember him.
Oh, of course. Used to come before the service and send the coin. Now what are we going to say? I said to Vladika, I like Russian saints. He told me, why? I said, you speak Russian.
Да, of course, yeah. Да, я говорю.
Да, I told him. Потому что русские святые светят их, и поем, и блажен муж, и величание. А когда нету, простая служба, у нас час длиннее. Смотри, хотите сказать, что по-русски короче? Да, я сказала. He had great sense of humor. Oh, we laughed with him, we talked with him. He really cared for us.
Bishop Mitropolita Kallistosa said, you go to Lesnia, you will be under Bishop John, who will never ever leave you. So we went to Lesnia and we became under Bishop John. He accepted us.
Do you remember first time you saw him?
2 years we were there. And he tells us, you are not here. What
You
is
are
it?
wasted
You are wasted here.
in Lesnia.
And 2 nuns, 2 abbesses, you are wasted here. I must find for you a convent. He went to Belgium, they don't want any convent. He came to England, and they all said, yes, yes, let them. Because Mother Elizabeth came from London. And Elizabeth, she is Ampenova, 100% Russian. And she went to be a nun in the Holy Land, and she became our teacher. She used to teach Russian, French, piano, many other. 20 years.
Yeah, I brought you this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she brought us some oil, which I'm very pleased. Usually I bring them up and ask them to bring us.
Now let me tell you how first I met Vladika John, St. John of Shanghai and of Versailles, because when he was in Western Europe, he lived outside Paris in the town of Versailles, not far from the great palace there. I was in Paris in the year 1957. So this was 5 years after my initial encounter with Orthodoxy. And during those 5 years I had met many Orthodox and talked with them, and I had gradually come to the conviction that I had to join the Orthodox Church. But I was still delaying. I had stopped receiving communion in the Anglican Church because I felt I couldn't any more consider that this was really my church, but I wasn't yet Orthodox, so I was in a kind of no man's land between churches. I knew that Vladika John had a little house in Versailles, and I knew that he celebrated the liturgy every day. So one morning I went out to Versailles and went along to where his house was. I decided then that I would go and visit his home, and sure enough, I found that there was a chapel at the house, and I went inside, and Vladika John was celebrating the liturgy. I knew a little about him. People had told me something of his remarkable story, first in Shanghai and then in Western Europe. He had, at this stage, in the year 1957, not yet gone to America. The liturgy was about halfway through. I must have come in just after the great entrance. There was simply Vladika John serving, and one monk singing, and one old lady in the congregation, no one else. It was a weekday. When the moment of the communion of the people arrived, Vladika John came out with the chalice and said the words, "With fear of God and faith draw near." And then he stopped, holding the chalice and looking at me, as if he was expecting me to come for communion. And we waited, and then I shook my head, and he went back into the sanctuary.
But why did you? When I read it, I was like, why didn't you go?
Well, I wasn't Orthodox. I was still, as I've said, in no man's land between the churches, wanting to become Orthodox, but I hadn't yet joined.
But that's why I asked you if you heard about him, because if you heard of him, you knew already that he can see people through.
Well, that was what puzzled me. I knew that he had this gift of insight, and therefore I went away thinking, now, if he had this gift of insight, did he not realize that I wasn't Orthodox? And then again I thought I knew enough about the Russian Church in exile that in order to go for communion you had to go for confession. And therefore, if a stranger comes to church and expects to come for communion, they would explain to the priest celebrating that they had been to confession to someone else. They wouldn't just come up as stranger to receive communion. And I also knew that in the Russian Church it would be expected, if you were coming for communion, that you would arrive for the beginning of the liturgy, not halfway through. And so I thought, well, didn't Vladika John understand that I wasn't Orthodox? But then I thought, perhaps he was trying to say to me, you've got to make up your mind. You can't spend all this time just outside the Orthodox Church exploring. It's not good for you to be between two churches and not receiving communion in either of them. No one can stay indefinitely in no man's land. And so I took his gesture, as if I was to come for communion, as a sign to say, make up your mind, enter the Orthodox Church, and then you'll be able to have communion.
Did you ever had a chance after this ask him what's really happened that moment? What if you took his invitation for real and you went for communion? What would have happened then? Did you ask him?
I never asked him. I did meet him, as I shall explain later on. Perhaps he didn't remember that he'd seen me there, because after all, this was a moment that made a big impression on me, but for him, he might not have been thinking very much of who it was standing there. At any rate, at the end of that service, after the liturgy, there was a Moleben in front of one of the icons of the saint of the day, and at the conclusion, Vladika John anointed the people with oil from the lamp in front of the saint. And this time he gestured to me in his impulsive way, very firmly, that I was to come and be anointed. Because, of course, non-Orthodox is allowed to be anointed with the oil at the vigil service or at a Moleben. And so I was anointed with the oil. I was too shy to stay and talk to him. I went off wondering about all this. But in fact, some months later, I was received into the Orthodox Church.
Nu en altijd en in de eeuwen der eeuwen. So he was a man with the whole world in his heart, and I think that's just what our Lord Jesus and our Heavenly Father wants, that we are with the whole world loving and taking care of. I think that's what Svятого Ion wants.
And at one moment when the situation in the family was very bad, my father was leaving our family for another woman. So my mother was alone with 5 children. And it was very difficult, and for me it was a very sad situation. So I was depressed, and at this moment I was in Brussels, in the station of the Greek station in Brussels, and there I have met Svятого Ion. He was waiting for the train, and around him were young people and students, even of my college, who were laughing with him, because he was very strange to see.
They laughed with him or they laughed at him?
No, with him.
With him, good.
Yeah.
And how old were you?
I don't remember. I think I was 12 or 13. I don't remember. I'm not good with dates, you know. That's the big problem with me.
But most importantly, you were still a child.
Yes.
You wasn't adult yet.
So at this moment, I was not in the mood of laughing with the other students, because I was very sad. And at one moment, Svятого Ion turned around and looked at me. It's without saying anything, he looked only. And at this moment I felt something very strange happening with me. It was like light and warmth was entering in my senses, in my body, in my mind. It was very, very, very strange. I didn't understand, but I felt happy at this moment. So I took the train and I never have seen Vladika again. Only I always remembered his face. And I was very curious to know who is this man. So I have looked at this time. There was no internet, you know, there were no many possibilities, and Orthodox was very strange at this moment in our country, so I couldn't find out who was this man.
And he didn't talk to you?
No.
This is all it was? He just looked at you?
Looked at me. So I felt the love of the... it was... You felt being loved, warm, don't be afraid, everything will become good. All this was in his look, you know. It was without words, but all these words are said at the same moment.